drop the deuce in the toilet. Like I look like the deuce. Brown.
Yeah. So
deuce.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about poop and poop size and what's healthy for you. Holy cow. What is going on, Roman? I know everyone really missed us last week, but guys, Roman and I have lives, we're living our life and we're trying to get the best out of it, but some things turn up and whatnot, but we're back at it again, boys and girls. Wonderful news today. Chaboy hit 405, 4 reps of 3 on deadlift yesterday. Roman's never going to catch up to me. I'm just going to just blow him out of the water until my back breaks. I'm gonna deadlift so much, and Roman's never going to catch up until I literally break my back. I'm going to do 500 for reps of 3, and Roman's going to be like, holy smokes, Batman.
I will say, holy smokes, Batman. That's insane, buddy. Nice job.
We're not stopping here, boys and girls. We're not stopping here. To let you guys know, deadlifting is probably my favorite lift and my best lift, but I only use chalk and a belt. Nothing else, guys. I'm using reps of 3. Learn how to grip a bar. I know Roman said he was struggling before, but if you're listening to this, the only way you're going to get better at gripping bars is lifting heavier weight, and you better just man or woman up and get those gains, baby.
Yeah, baby.
But other than that, I mean, hey, I bunked my shoulder and it's all good. Hey, we might have to stop overhead pressing for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Try those activation drills, see if it helps.
The only activation drills I want to do is activating my glutes. Hey now. How are we doing, Gainz Nation? Man, I feel like I love doing this podcast because I love just like disorganizing myself and just concentrating on something else, and I love it. This is like a space of freedom, I'd say.
Okay, buddy.
I don't know if that's how you feel, Roman, but holy cow.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a
lot. But episode 76, Roman, what are we talking about today, buddy?
We're talking about posture. Does it matter? I don't know. We're going to cover that, folks.
Also, I didn't tell Roman yet, but I think we need to go over like absolute failure, technical failure. We might need to do a video on it too. But holy cow, the gains! I don't know what you guys are expecting out of Roman and I, but by next year we're gonna look so huge that you're gonna think we're gonna be taking steroids. That's pretty much how it's gonna go. I think so, Roman. Don't you think?
Yeah, at this rate, I'm going to be looking like freaking Seth Feroce.
I want to look like Nick Walker or whatever his name is.
You like him? Isn't he freaking an absolute animal?
Dude, he's a tank. Like, he's not an animal. He's a tank.
3 weeks out for the Tampa Pro, I think. Excuse me. No, New York Pro, I think.
New York, where the rats are rent-free and pizza is $1,000 per rent's $2,000 per second.
Sir.
But yeah, I wanted to go over. Man, so many people are doing the absolute and technical failure now. I feel like we're about to lose the gravy train. But if you guys haven't checked it out, look up Rendesat's periodization or RP or Mike Erzatel on YouTube. All those will probably pull up their account. But look up his video that he just recently posted like last week. Jeff Nippard just released a video yesterday or today about technical absolute failures, reps in reserve, RPE, about like hypertrophy gains. So if you're after those hypertrophy gains and you want to understand how to become intermediate or advanced, check those 2 videos out, and then maybe Roman and I will put our 2 cents into it. But Roman, I know you probably didn't watch the Jeff Nippard one, but I just watched it literally like 20 minutes ago. Amazing.
I actually watched a Jeff Nippard video a couple hours ago during my lunch break on posture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So start us off, Roman. Why don't you?
It was actually a really informative video, and it pretty much confirmed like everything that I wanted to talk about. But he went over like some myths that like there's an optimal posture for people. There's not. That being in like a bad posture is better than a good posture. So he had a physio on that was talking about how in many ways in popular culture, we denote some sort of ethics or morality into a situation, which is just like situational, or in this situation, positional. So one of the things
situational, positional.
Yeah. So like one of the things that they talked about is that, and you will get this confirmation bias where people will have poor posture, and let's say they're like slouched in their station all day, and they're just kind of typing away, and their lower back hurts them by the end of the day. There's a lot of factors at play there. One, you're in a position for 8 hours. Do you think that the human body is meant to be in a position for 8 hours? Try and get like the best position. You can buy one of those posture fixing devices if you want, that shoots your shoulders back into like California.
I've actually owned one of those.
Oh really? Yeah.
They're really uncomfortable, and you would not want to wear that in public.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure that your rhomboids would be like sore as hell by the end of the day if you wore it all day, like all the time type situation. And like it might be okay every once in a while if you wanted to use that as like a strengthening tool, but yeah. The main point is that our bodies are made to move, so that if you have an office job, or even if it's like at home, like a work from home job now with like COVID stuff, you should still be moving. One thing that I'll do is I'm gonna do a little tour actually. So this is my workstation, folks. Hopefully this is enlightening to you.
And also, guys, check out the video on YouTube. If you're listening to audio, check out the video on this portion.
So I just set up my my extra monitor and my laptop on the whatchamacallit there, on the ledge, and then I stand on a pad. No shoes today. Sometimes I'll wear slippers, sometimes I'll wear socks, and I do that intentionally just so I can mix it up. And then I sit. Let's see how well you can see this on the video.
Oh, is that a hairstylist chair?
Yeah, I just got some barber chairs because they look like super comfy. They're super cheap on Amazon. So I do a combination of sitting and standing. Whenever I can take breaks, I'll go do like a 10, 15-minute walk and then come back. I've been pretty swamped with work, so I just do a combination of sit, stand, and walk from the kitchen or the living room to the kitchen throughout my day. But I'm constantly changing positions, and since I've done that, my like middle back issues have been like next to non-existent. But remember, I also do resistance exercise training, which was another thing that they recommended and that we're constantly advocating on this channel. So there's too many like potential positions that you could be in for like long periods of time from like an occupational situation. So what I would encourage you is like one of the examples was if you're a grocer, if you work in a grocery store, and oftentimes you find that you have to bend over to put things away, including resistance exercise training. So getting on some type of a program, and let's say like a deadlifting program, and learn to like the proper mechanics of a hip hinge, shooting your hips back and keep your knees relatively stationary. Slight forward movement is totally allowable. So you should definitely be focusing on strengthening those positions, maybe varying those positions, maybe getting into a squat from time to time, maybe having a pad that you can kneel down on, maybe sitting on your butt sometimes, sitting on the pad, maybe sitting on a stool from time to time, and just mixing it up throughout the day. Mix it up, whatever you can do. And if necessary, fit in your breaks when you find that you're starting to like fatigue or tire every hour and a half, whatever it might be, and just work with management. Hey, I find that I'm most productive if I'm able to take a quick 5-minute break, just like walk around the store, use the restroom like every hour, 15 minutes, whatever it is, and negotiate with them. It's a job. Like if that's your job, then you should be able to negotiate how you operate in the workplace. Obviously be reasonable, but if they were a reasonable employer, then they should be willing to make sure that you're comfortable in the workplace. sometimes you're going to have to get into uncomfortable positions. My brother's a plumber. Sometimes he has to lie down on people's like old moldy ass cabinetry, breathing up all that like yucky air. So he'll wear his mask and all that stuff, and he'll put a pad down, and he'll put some like red rosin tape or whatever he has to. But it's still not comfortable. It's uncomfortable as shit to be like leaning on somebody's like cabinetry and trying to like fix somebody's sink under their sink. So he's got this like wooden beam essentially like stabbing into his back. That's not super comfortable, but he'll do certain things, like he'll bring a pad and he'll vary his positioning. So that was like the main takeaways that I took away from the video, and that's also my understanding is our bodies are meant to move and they're not meant to be in a position for one time. It's going to be different. It's going to look different for each person. So I'd set a reminder on your phone if you do have a stationary position or a sedentary position like Antoine and I do. You can see Antoine right now. He's kind of like moving back and forth. He's shifting his weight from one foot to the next. Like I said, both of us will go on multiple daily walks.
I'm also standing too, by the way.
Yeah, also standing, and I'm seated right now. So those are the big takeaways. Set phone reminders. I have some other cool stuff that I want to talk about from a lifting perspective when it comes to posture. But posture in general, those were essentially like the main points that I want to touch upon today.
Yeah. Do you want me to add on there at all?
Yeah. And then I did some filming of myself recently, which helped with sort of identify some potential movement faults that I think I might have, and I'm trying to correct those. So I think kind of talking about that will be illuminating for our listeners. But first, I want to hear from you, buddy.
Yeah, and you know what's so one of my good friends just got a job where Roman and I work, and we were talking, and he was saying like, hey, my for some reason my neck hurts, at the end of the day when I'm working, and also too a lot of like the posture stuff. Roman did touch up a lot about the good, like make sure you're moving and whatnot. Another thing too is like if you're stationary when you're coming to work, you kind of want to put everything in like more of a better posture setting, I guess too. So as like Roman and I are like two different types of human beings. Like if Roman and I stood back to back, we'd have different limb heights, different neck lengths, shoulder width, all that good stuff. Where a lot of the times if you're stationary, if you don't set those up properly, you're gonna have a bad time. Okay. But anyways, all jokes aside, but like a lot of those times, like if you have an office job or a stationary job, you want to set yourself up with success. There's like ways of like kind of like how you lift certain weights, and if you're benching, squatting, deadlifting, you kind of want to work in a position where you're going to be most comfortable, and like you're not like if I'm working right now and pretend I'm typing, you see my shoulders are shrugged right now, and it's it wouldn't be a good position. Like if I sat like this for 8 hours, like holy cow, I'd be sore as heck. Or if you're sitting down all the time, I've experienced this too. When I used to not have a sit-stand desk, but like you get tight in some areas that you're not used to seeing. Like your hamstrings get really tight because you're in like a flex position all the time. So to like Roman's point, like the moving portion is going to help a lot. Getting up. Also, if you're in the office right now, like maybe drink a ton of water where you have to go to the bathroom all the time. Not to say like that's like a good idea, but like setting the reminders to like get up and move around is always good. Setting your position is always good, as well as like if you are in like the union position. When it comes to like posture, a lot of those things is like something that you're going to have to learn on your own. And as we stress all the time, you need to like lift properly. I know a lot of union workers that like, if you guys do watch this or listen to this, you're picking up things, you're dropping things, your shoulder, like Roman was saying, he's lying down with his brother's arms up in the air for a long time. But for those areas where you're lifting and dropping things, you just want to be cautious on how you're doing those things. And I think a lot of it could be learned too in the gym, for work for people that are stationary or sedentary, or people that actually have like an active job, like a grocer, a union worker, all those different types of job types where, your posture is going to be really something important when it comes to like your daily, movement. Because if you're not paying attention to that, you're going to go to the gym and, you're going to do like an RDL and you're like, holy cow, I haven't lifted hamstrings in a week, but for some reason, my hamstrings are super tight, or why is my neck hurt? It feels like someone dropped a weight like on the back of my, like I feel like I put the squat, like the barbell on top of my neck and I just let it sit there for 8 hours. Those things are going to happen. And if you don't pay attention to them, it could worsen like your daily movement and activities. The only also thing I wanted to add, Roman, is like, besides like movement and stuff, like maybe do like daily like stretches or, daily activities where you're doing like different movements where you're getting out of those positions. Like if you're going to stretch out your hamstrings because they're flexed all day, like maybe it'd be a good idea to do like 2 or 3 stretches during your shift when you're getting up, going to the bathroom, grabbing food, whatever the case may be. And also too, like coming from a person, I felt like I've had terrible posture. I just want to mention like personal feedback when it comes to me. Before I started lifting and like before I got into lifting, I was a gamer. I played a lot of sports, but most of the time I would sit in the position where my upper back was rounded and my shoulders and my neck, my head was forward all the time. So I'm glad that like I got into lifting and whatnot, because I was able to strengthen those muscles as well as getting better positions moving forward in my life instead of like making them worse, because no one wants to look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, like this. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure you get those like with like diseases like diabetes. My brother just shared with me like information about like if you have like that fat pocket on the back of your neck where it almost looks like a hunchback, that could be like a precursor of diabetes as well. But I don't want to go into that because I'm not in the medical field. But I was reading up on that the other day as well.
Yeah. I believe that. Just a few points that I wanted to like kind of expand upon. So going back to the union workers, there have been some studies done by like exercise physiologists and like different research labs, and they've worked on trying to teach like proper mechanics to construction workers, and they actually found a higher incidence rate of injury when they taught proper like neutral spine, like keep your head looking like a certain position, lift with your glutes and your legs.
Yeah.
And
there was more incidents too on that.
I think it was a higher incidence rate of injury during that study. And what to take from that is that the construction workers were used to lifting with like a rounded back, for example.
Yeah.
They're used to lifting more with their let's say like their lower back as opposed to lifting more with their legs. So it was changing the movement patterns which their bodies and their muscles have become accustomed to. So by incorporating a very high load, a very large load, and in a different style than they were used to, that induced a higher injury rate. I wish I had like the research to cite from that, but it makes sense from what we understand about physiology and about just exercise in general, that the more you do something, the better you get at that particular thing, that specific thing. Specificity is usually the number one rule that's talked about in exercise physiology. So what's the take of that? Do you never lift with neutral spine if you've ever lifted with a rounded back? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. You definitely want to go back, rework your form, but you want to start off very, very, very light, ridiculously light. Maybe like much lighter than you've ever thought, and then progress your way up. Add 5 pounds each time. You can, if you add 5 pounds each time and you're able to deadlift twice a week at like ridiculously low weights, let's say like 5-10% of your like current 1RM, within 3 to 6 months, you'll probably be at about 50% 1 rep max, and you might have a a higher potential ceiling if you do that. You don't know until you try. But that would be if I was like if somebody was concerned about that in particular, that's the approach that I would take. I would see if they could just lift the bar with neutral spine, and I'd probably throw on like some 5s or 10s, and this is somebody that has like 300, 400, 500 pound deadlift. I would still do the same thing. I'd still work the same protocol. So I just want to make that note for people to keep in mind.
And that's what I mean, that's what I did for like squats. Like, I don't know if I said it on here, but like I recently changed to like low bar squats, and like I think the first week, I think I started with like 135 or 155, and then like I would have kept going to like 185, 205, 225, and then now I'm at 235. So I'm not even making like big jumps whatsoever, and it feels like totally fine too. So
yeah, like if we're able to take like your deadlift, for example, your upper back is like slightly curved, but the reason why I think that you do that is you get into a more advantageous position because you do have longer lower limbs. So that allows you to get into a nice tight position, and your body's adapted to that. So there's no sense in changing that unless you believe at some point you hit a ceiling that you just keep on bumping up against it, and you can't break that ceiling. But you're smashing deadlift PRs like it's no one's business right now. There'd be no sense in changing that, because that's how your back, that's how your musculature, that's how your arms have gotten used to that positioning. So if you were to change that, now you're going to change the way that your arms are tensioning the bar. Now you're going to change the way that your scapula like set and fix themselves. Now you're changing the way that the rhomboids pull the scapula together. Your infraspinatus, your supraspinatus, all these like different musculature. Now you're changing the positioning of all the different musculature that runs along the spine, and they're going to be at a different length when you begin and move through that movement. So you're essentially adding a completely different stimulus, or like a highly varied stimulus from what they're used to. So,
and
no real sense in
I like that. Like, that's like a good point. Like, I always thought it was such a bad thing, but like what I felt that was most important is my shoulders rounding more during the lift, if I fall forward more, and if my lower back rounds or not, and then if my butt shoots up before anything else, which like yesterday when I did the PR with 405 for sets of 3, like none of that was happening. Like unless I didn't videotape it because Sam was doing cardio, so I was gonna videotape it, but sometimes you just don't, like, you don't record and you just kind of go with the flow. But like when you get to that point of like deadlifts, like as long as my feet are just screwed to the ground, I'm holding the bar, I'm not rounding at all. I don't feel my lower back rounding, and my glutes don't shoot up faster than like my hip, like everything else. Then like I kind of understand, like, hey, that's okay. Because I mean, like if you look at it, like a lot of people, like Stan Efferding, like has like honestly the worst looking squat I've ever seen, but he could squat like 600 for reps.
Yeah.
Like he'll blow people out of the water. But like, his squat looks horrendous. Like,
it's very hip driven.
Yeah, usually you wouldn't teach a beginner or a newbie like something like Stan Efferding's form. But when you look at him, the guy's like made out of muscle, and his, like Roman was saying, like all his muscles are lengthened and like perfectly lengthened into that position. And if he would change it, I mean, he's already accomplished so many powerlifting numbers. So I don't know. I mean, if we look at Dan Bell, the recent, like, like the powerlifting freaking monster, I mean, it'd be like him trying to restart everything. And he's like, well, why would I restart everything? I think I'm doing pretty okay.
Yeah. So like, Dan Bell, perfect example, would make no sense. You see how upright he is?
Yeah.
Like you can read like the whatever the logo is on the front of his shirt. But with Stan actually, he's put a lot of thought and effort into that style. And he came upon like the starting strength squat style with Mark Ripito. Like he would have done it himself without Mark, but he has worked with Mark in the past, and he said that that's like what was most comfortable for him and his knees and his hips. So he just has a huge ass. He has really, really, really strong posterior chain muscles. So he's able to have that greater lever at his hip, where he doesn't have, when he sits up more upright, that's also going to force his knees to move more forward. And if you go back and listen to some of his interviews, he'll talk about like how his knees would be cranky, how his hips would be cranky because of that style. Now that he's more hip driven because he has a greater angle or degree within his hips, he's able to use the posterior chain muscles, like his huge back. Check out pictures of that guy's back. It's a freaking mile wide. And then his big ass to be able to lift that weight. That's what's responsible for him having big squat numbers into his 50s.
And that's what I'm trying to get after too with my squats, because like that's like something that I've told like aimlessly of how much like how annoyed I am. And you know what, like, and that's like the same idea. Like how am I going to be able to squat the most weight? Do I need to lean a little bit more into the hips, or do I need to be upright? And what I've noticed when I would try to go upright, I would not be able to hold my back tight enough, or like I wouldn't be able to hold it upright as much. So I will like the low bar work where I'm tilted a little bit or not? I don't know.
Yeah. Based off of like your levers, I'd say that you need to have more of like a low bar type approach with a greater degree of flexion in the hip and a lesser degree of flexion in the knees, just because you're on the taller side.
Yeah, and then like another thing too, because I know we're running out of time, but like with posture and everything, like Roman was saying about the union workers, I just didn't want to miss this, Roman. But like if you ever get into like strongman or strong woman, like Roman was saying about like the rounded back and stuff, like you're gonna have to pick up stones that are literally like 300-400 pounds. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but like, you know, you're going to have to get in a position where you're not going to be able to get neutral spine unless you're some kind of freak and that you can like, you know, perfectly pick it up. But if you look at like someone like Brian Shaw, they used to do a lot of videos with him, like kind of understanding that, or like Half Thor. But like a lot of those positions are going to be natural. Like, can you do a log press with like a full natural form and then press it over your head? Maybe. But most of the time, like I've seen strongman in person at the Arnold and like strong woman, but like, you know, like even when they're trying to, you know, deadlift a log press off the floor and they're doing like a neutral grip, they're not doing like a mixed grip or double overhand, but they're like getting in a position where they have to get low enough to deadlift it, then raise it over their darn head. So it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, a lot of the things with posture, yeah, it's good to have probably like, it's probably great to like walk right and have like good posture with your shoulders back and like your head kind of neutral and everything. But like when you get into like strong man or strong woman, those kind of rules don't really too much apply unless for some reason you're like lifting all upper back and not using your legs. Then you'll probably run into some problems when you're lifting like 400 pound stones. And also you don't need to you know, tilt your pelvic area and you know, for your Instagram photos like Roman all the time. So
what an instant thought. Yeah, no. Yeah. So, and I don't want it to seem that like posture isn't important. Like posture is absolutely important, but like having perfect posture is not important at all. So if that's something that like you're concerned about, like I'd say like you could probably drop that to the bottom of the list. Does it make sense? Like, so one of the examples in like the Jeff Nipper video, which like I have a slightly different example, so I'll give both, is like if you walk into a job interview and you're slouched like in the chair, like, yo, what's up, man? Like that's not super professional. Like you want to be like sitting upright, like, you know, you want to have your chest up. You want to essentially like show like your face. So you want your chin to be tucked up just slightly, and you know you want to be confident, all this fun stuff. So is good, or like the ideal posture, do you want to practice that in that type of a situation? Absolutely. When you walk into a room, this is like my example, and you know you want people to like pay attention to you, you want to like, you know, pick up a lady, pick up a dude, whatever it might be. You're not going to just kind of walk in all closed off like this. You want to open yourself up, make your body language demonstrate that you're open to new opportunities, new relationships, new whatever it might be. So once again, that's chest up, that's for whatever reason, by showing your neck, you demonstrate the vulnerability. It's been positioned by like a few people. I don't know if this is bunk psychology or if it's like actually based in evolutionary psychology. But by showing your neck and not closing it off, you're demonstrating vulnerability, and there's strength and vulnerability in that you could be attacked at any time. Going back to the days when we had to like hunt and gather our food. So having your head up, your chest up, you're open, your hands are open like this. They don't have to be out here, they can be down here, but they shouldn't be closed off. When they're closed off, this sometimes even subconsciously, unconsciously communicates to people, I'm not looking for new relationships, new opportunities, whatever it might be. So you want to make sure that you stay open. So wear the proper clothing attire so that you're not, super tired or super cold if it's a cold environment.
I do that every time at the gym when people try to talk to me. I just go. I don't want to sit here and talk. You see my arms? They're closed off.
Yo, check my body language, bro.
Check my body. Instead of like asking me if I'm like single or anything, just check my body language, bro.
All right, one quick note on posture and positioning during movements. So there's been a lot of work recently, and like a lot of like social media posts have been put out by the channel Squat University. We're a huge fan of that Instagram channel, and also by Stuart McGill. He is like a world-renowned researcher on essentially like spinal health, and one of the things that the two of them have talked about are like micro movements in the spine, which may have been like indicative of like a former injury. So one of the things that I discovered recently is when I do my lateral raises, I seem to have some degree of like lumbothoracic movement. It's very, very, very slight, but I've noticed that it's just enough, which is essentially like me trying to get into like an optimal position, and me like unsuspectingly so. But sometimes it would cause my back to be sore in a way that I didn't want it to be sore. So I was working it in a way that when I do lateral raises, it's going to work the upper back musculature, but I do it mostly for the lateral or the side delts. So one thing that being able to see that that movement fault for me, or something that I've defined as a movement fault, is it's allowed me to put more focus on the spinal stability or trunk stability when I do my lateral raises. So they are extremely strict now, and I'm taking my mental effort. I'm trying to connect two things. I'm essentially coaching myself in two ways. I'm saying keep the core tight and nice strict like upwards movement, slightly in front of my body, not way out here, not like a front raise, just slightly in front of the body. And since then, I have a great mind muscle connection. I've noticed in filming myself after I've identified this movement fault that I don't have as much movements, so it doesn't cause that like uncomfortable sensation in my low to mid back. So that's something that I would highly recommend, and we've talked about this multiple times on the channel before. Like, film your sets, and if you find that you may potentially have a movement fault, just take some time and think about, like, is it a cue that I can cue myself up in? Is it maybe I need to do more activation drills? Okay, go on YouTube and Google like activation drills for my glutes, activation drills for my upper back, activation drills for my lower back, whatever it might be, and test that out. Try it out for 4-8 weeks, see if it helps. Those are the kind of things that are going to help prolong your journey. So in some, like, at least like on my part, do I think posture is like super important? Not really. I think that we put like way too much focus on it. I think in like social settings, yeah, it is important, but when it comes to like an optimal posture, I think it's kind of like a garbage comment. I think our bodies are, and I believe our bodies are made to move, so we need to move throughout the spaces that we inhabit, and move in like multiple different ways. So if it takes getting down on all fours and doing some like quick yoga poses in between maybe like calls or meetings at work, whatever you have to do to attain and achieve different movement modalities and different movement positions and patterns throughout the day, I think that is what will lead to the most amount of satisfaction and the least amount of discomfort for the individual.
Heck yeah, buddy. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, anyways, guys, that was great. I'm loving this ideas out of your room and everything. So episode 76 down in the books, guys. If you made it this far, please like, comment, subscribe, leave a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us a thumbs up on everything. We're on all video and audio sources. Let us know if you want us to see, like, put something out there where we're not on already. And then, yeah, guys, let us know what else you guys want to listen to or watch. And then we'll see you guys on that next one. Peace.